Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down my top 20 quarterback and tight end rankings for week number 5 of the 2024 fantasy football season. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, then please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get to my week number 5 top 20 quarterback and tight end rankings with tiers for the 2024 fantasy football season. We begin with the S tier at the quarterback position for week number 5 with my quarterbacks 1 through 3. At number 1, we have Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati in a division rivalry AFC North matchup, in a matchup that I believe could be one of, if not the highest scoring games of the week. Now, Lamar Jackson this season through 4 games has been one of, if not the most consistent quarterback in fantasy football. And it's not like some of these quarterbacks that are consistently bad. Shout out to Bryce Young. When he was actually playing, he was just consistently terrible. Lamar Jackson has been a consistent top 9 quarterback. Quarterback 5, 9, 4, and 6 over the last 4 weeks. And he's currently the quarterback 3 on the season in a spot up against the Cincinnati Bengals that I love, in a spot that's going to push him to score a bunch of fantasy points. I think the upside in this matchup is insane, and the facts are the facts. He also is a very safe quarterback week in and week out, which makes me very confident in my ranking of him inside of the S tier, inside of the top 3. At number 2, we got Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills going up against the Houston Texans in Houston, the Stephon Diggs revenge game on the other side. Now, Josh Allen, we talked about this in the quarterback start sit video earlier on in the week. Josh Allen has been following a precise pattern. Quarterback 1 in week 1, quarterback 28 in week 2, quarterback 1 in week 3, and you guessed it, in week number 4, he was the quarterback number 28. Now, if the pattern follows, he will be the quarterback number 1 this week. Now, obviously, the pattern isn't going to stick for the rest of the season, and he's not going to go quarterback 1 and 28 every other week until the season comes to a close, but I do believe that this should be a top 3 scoring game for Josh Allen. I get losing Khalil Shakir is definitely a knock in his game and what's going to keep me off of ranking him as the QB1, but they have a decent amount of weapons there. They have a quarterback in Josh Allen who has great rushing upside, so he belongs in the top 3 in great matchups like this up against the Texans. At number 3, we have Jaden Stormy Daniels going up against the Cleveland Browns. Now, a lot of people are going to be a little bit nervous about Jaden Daniels because he's been beating up on pretty bad defenses, right? Last week, he beats down on the Arizona Cardinals. The week prior to that, he lays the hammer down like his name was Thor on the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati on prime time, right? So back-to-back matchups that were very easy. He succeeds. Back in week 1, he goes up against the Bucs. Not the best defense either, and he was the quarterback number 3. His worst game on the year was up against the Giants, whose defense isn't the best either. But the thing about Jaden Daniels here is I don't care about the matchup. The rushing upside is so significant. The guy is so accurate, and I get outside of Terry McLaurin and Zach Ertz and the running backs, they don't have the best weapons out there, but Jaden Daniels just makes things happen. He has shown us through the first 4 games of the season he could be very consistent. He's basically the same on the consistency level as Lamar Jackson. So at this point in the season, we just have to rank Jaden Daniels this high. Now we move on into the second tier here, the A tier, beginning with Jordan Love Me Tender, Love Me Sweet of the Green Bay Packers going up against the LA Rams in LA. The Rams defense has more holes than a glory hole, and I fully expect Jordan Love to take advantage of that. I get Romeo Dobbs probably not going to play. They're not going to have Christian Watson. They're down to Dontavian Wicks, Bo Melton, Jaden Riley Reed, and Tucker Kraft Mac and Cheese. So sure, they don't have their full weapon core there, but up against the LA Rams, they really don't need it. Last week, up against the Minnesota Vikings, it was a tale of 2 halves. The game starts, and Jordan Love looks blind. In second half, he got LASIK Jameis Winston style and dialed in. He threw 4 touchdowns, 3 INTs, over 380 passing yards as the quarterback too. While I don't think he's going to throw that many interceptions this week, I could see him throwing 3+ touchdowns, so I love Jordan Love up against the Rams. At number 5, we got Brock Purdy going up against the Arizona Cardinals at home. Now, this is a great matchup for Brock Purdy. He struggled a bit last week, throwing an interception and 1 touchdown and just 288 yards against the Patriots. But the Patriots defense looks like the 85 Bears when you compare them to the Arizona Cardinals. Another one of those soft as baby shit matchups, a wet dream matchup for big cock Brock Purdy. George Kittle should be in the game. Debo, Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, the only Avenger member that they're missing is Christian McCaffrey. So this is a great spot for Brock Purdy to be very consistent as a top 6 guy. At number 6, we got Justin Fields going up against the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the Dallas Cowboys defense isn't what we made them out to be. Now, are they completely and utterly a trash can defense shown with Oscar the Grouch? No. But are they one of the best defenses in the NFL? The answer to that is simple. Fuck no, baby. Justin Fields, though, his rushing upside is incredible. He was the quarterback 1 last week. The team has allowed him to throw the ball a lot more. Week 1, week 2, not throwing the ball a ton. 23 passing attempts and 20 passing attempts, where he's the quarterback 19 and 24. Over the last 2 weeks, they let him throw the ball 30 or more times, resulting in quarterback 12 and quarterback 1 last week. So I love this ranking as the quarterback 6. I love Justin Fields this week because while the guy might not be the most talented quarterback on earth, in fantasy football, you don't have to be that to be successful because of his rushing upside. 3 touchdowns last week and 0 INTs. Next up, we move on into the B tier here with CJ Stroud going up against the Buffalo Bills at home in Houston. This is going to be the Stephon Diggs revenge game. Tank Dell's there. Diggs is there. Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz. Sure, Joe Mixon is going to be there, but the running back core is fine without him. Obviously, they would prefer to have Joe Mixon, though. The Buffalo Bills defense is banged up, and I expect CJ Stroud and friends to give a nice bukkake out to that defense. I love this spot up against the Buffalo Bills. This is another one of those matchups that should be the Rock'em Sock'em Robots high-scoring matchup, a UFC heavyweight fight between Derek Lewis and Tai Tuivasa, right? If you guys watch the UFC, where basically 2 dudes that are in there not protecting their face, swinging for the fences, and someone's shorts are coming off because their balls was hot. CJ Stroud up against the Buffalo Bills. Love this spot for him. His upside is somewhat dwindling due to his rushing upside, which is absolutely 0, but he could easily throw for 3 touchdowns in this game. I think he's a safe bet to finish inside of the top 12. At number 8, we got Geno Smith of the Seattle Seahawks going up against the Giants at home in Seattle. Quarterback 7, 21, and 8 to start off the season. The Giants defense, another one of those that is just not very good. Geno Smith has DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, JSN. They have Noah Fant. They have Kenneth Walker who can catch passes out of the backfield. The new system here, getting rid of Pete Carroll, has proven to be great success. Shout out Borat for Geno Smith. And this is just yet another layup matchup for Geno Smith to finish inside of the top 10. Next up, we got Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty, Slim Shiesty, the man with more nicknames than playoff wins. Quarterback 29 to start off the year against the Patriots. No bueno. The team wasn't gelling. The Patriots defense was on his ass all game long, and he was looking up at the lights like his name was Violet Myers. Then quarterback 10, 7, and 10, 3 weeks in a row as a top 10 quarterback this week up against the Ravens. Pretty middling defense. I mean, I don't want to shit on the defense. I also don't want to give him the gawk 9,000 special because the defense isn't that good. Joe Burrow should have at minimum a top 12 game here. He is just another one of those guys like CJ Stroud where you basically just close your eyes, rank them inside the top 12, and typically they finish there. At number 10, we got Kyler Murray. Now, I recently moved Kyler Murray down my rankings. Why? Because while Kyler Murray's upside is significant due to the amount he can rush the football, and while he has great weapons around him, he hasn't been putting up big numbers consistently this season. Quarterback 15, 1. 17, 24. Now, I'm not going to sit here and just throw Kyler Murray in the garbage. I'm not going to sit here and say that Kyler Murray has been straight up dog shit all season because that is just not the case. But it hasn't been great for Kyler. Only 1 game this season with over 1 touchdown. The matchup against the 49ers is tough, but I'm not going to truly bury him down the rankings because the weapons around him are good, and he is also very good. And next up, we move to the C tier, beginning with mono man Sam Darnold going up against the Jets. Now, a lot of people have Sam Darnold ranked much lower than this. They've got him as the quarterback 18 and expert consensus rankings on Fantasy Pros. And while I get, hey, this is going to be his toughest matchup yet, maybe we need to throw him down the rankings, I believe very strongly, we've been talking about this for years, in the NBA Jam on fire narrative, which means if a player is on fire, like Sam Darnold, quarterback 13, 4, 9, and 9, he has caught fire. Why would you sit him, right? There are, in basketball, right? A guy shooting fucking 5 threes in a row. At the end of the game, are you going to pass it to the guy that's hit 5 threes in a row to shoot the game-winning shot for the 3, or are you going to pass it to someone else? I am giving the ball to the guy that is on fire, and that is Sam Darnold. He caught fire like Katniss Everdeen, okay? Sam Darnold, I get the matchup is tough, but this is a revenge game, and even in London, jolly good show, where the games typically go very, very weird, I still trust Sam to finish inside the top 12, but I put him in a lower tier because I don't think he belongs with the other guys because of the matchup and because the game is just a little bit funky because it's going to be in London. Next up, we got Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And speaking of Dak Prescott, he is the underdog free pick for this weekend. So if you're new to Underdog and sign up using promo code Notorious or by using the link in the video description, you receive a free pick, which is Dak Prescott higher than half a total yard, plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So you match Dak Prescott higher than half a total yard with any of the players playing on Sunday or on Monday, not on the Cowboys. And if both of those picks hit, you receive 3 times what you enter into your pick'em. If you want to do multiple picks, more than 2, then the payout will be higher. So make sure you guys check that out. Sign up with promo code Notorious to get your free pick, which is Dak Prescott higher than half a total yard, plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So when it comes to Dak Prescott, he hasn't been the most cash money based upon where you drafted him as like the quarterback 8 or 9. He's currently quarterback 9 in the season, quarterback 22, 15, 2, and 11. So things haven't gone so wrong with Dak to where you'd be super mad based upon where you drafted him. But I do think he could be playing better, to be honest. Like, up against the Giants, he should have definitely played way better last week. This week, he's got a tough spot up against the Steelers. The Steelers' defense did just get rinsed by Cool Joe Flacco last week. But I don't necessarily think that that's who the defense is, that they're going to get a train ran on them by a quarterback that's 8,000 years old. So Dak should have an average game here. I'm not expecting the most. I'm also not expecting him to be terrible, just kind of a low-end QB2 to or low-end QB1 to high-end QB2 type of range. Next up, we got Trevor Lawrence, touchdown Jesus, going up against the Colts. Now, Trevor Lawrence has not played very good at all this season for fantasy football. He has 3 games with 1 or less touchdowns, and he had 1 game last week with 2 touchdowns up against the Houston Texans. Now, this is a matchup that very much entices me. This is a matchup with its legs wide open for the taking, consensually, of course, going up against the Colts. Trevor Lawrence has not been good. Why do we like Trevor Lawrence? Because of the matchup and because Christian Kirk and Brian Thomas Jr., and if Evan Ingram plays, those 3 can get dirty up against this defense and have a big game to help out Mr. Lawrence. Next up, we got Patrick Mahomes. Now, there's going to be people in the comment section, Nick, how do you have Sam Darnold, Dak Prescott, and Trevor Lawrence ranked ahead of Patrick Mahomes? Nick, don't you know that Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL? Nick, don't you know that Patrick Mahomes has won so many Super Bowls? And you're a Dolphins fan, and Tua fucking sucks compared to Patrick Mahomes, Nick, you idiot. Yeah, I get that Patrick Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the NFL, but the man decided to, like he was playing, what's that video game called? You know the game, anyone that's a video game guy or gal would know what I'm talking about. Was it Blitz? It was like a football game where you play as like these random ass teams and the cheerleaders are like strippers and you can purposely go and take someone's like knee out. You could attack their nut sack and it'll burst one of their testes, right? And if you do that, that's like what Mahomes did. He slowed down time and took Rashee Rice's ACL out. Now, we still don't know. Maybe Rashee Rice can come back, but if he comes back, it's not for a while, I'll tell you what. So, Patrick Mahomes has fallen outside of the top 12 at quarterback every single week. Week 1, quarterback 14, then the quarterback 14, quarterback 15, quarterback 17. So, things are not getting better. They are getting worse for Patrick Mahomes, and he's in a matchup up against the Saints, whose defense is not a pushover. Will Patrick Mahomes figure it out and be a great fantasy quarterback? Maybe, maybe not. They'll still probably win the Super Bowl because of some fucking Taylor Swift black magic, but Patrick Mahomes going up against the Saints, not a great matchup, hasn't performed, so I simply cannot rank him higher. Next up, we move into the 5th tier here, the D tier, beginning with Caleb Williams going up against the Carolina Panthers. Caleb, the first 2 games, pretty trash. Then up against the Colts, he gets better. He scores his first touchdown. He scores 2 touchdowns, but he throws 2 picks. Last week up against the Rams, a great matchup. 1 touchdown, 0 INTs, 150 passing yards. Another great matchup up against the Panthers here. But when will I finally be able to really like Caleb? Because Caleb has all the weapons. Caleb has Swift, who's a decent pass-catching running back. They have a great tight end. I guess not great, but above-average tight end in Cole Kmet. They have old man Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore. I get the offensive line is a fucking turnstile. It's not helpful, but he has so many weapons out there. When will he finally become the guy that you thought he was going to be out of college? Now, again, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, Caleb Williams is a bust, this, that, or the other thing, but based upon where he was drafted, there's a lot of hopes on him. The Panthers matchup is great. I feel safe based upon where I've got him ranked, but I also don't have him ranked high enough to where a lot of people would have to play him and they get super disappointed. Next up, we got Deshaun Watson, another great matchup for the Massage Man, going up against the Commanders in Washington. Deshaun Watson's been a top 18 quarterback in every single week, but that's not really a hard thing to do, right? Oh, if he was a top 10, top 8 quarterback every single week, then we'd be singing the praises of him. You know, maybe I'd give him a massage if I had him on my fantasy team, right? A nice rub and tug special, but instead, he's been scoring 13, 15, 16, 13 fantasy points, which really doesn't win you your game. Sure, maybe he's not completely sinking your battleship, but it's not winning it for you. The reason why he's ranked this high is because of the matchup against the Commanders. Should be fine enough for him. I like this matchup up against the Commanders, but the Commanders' defense could end up stonewalling him because he's just not very good. Next up, we got Derek Carr of the New Orleans Saints going up against the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. Clint Kubiak and Derek Carr were forming an Eiffel Tower over defenses week 1, week 2, quarterback 6, quarterback 3, then back down to earth, quarterback 29 and quarterback 25. If he was ever going to get out of this fucking funk that he's in, it's not going to be up against the Chiefs. It's probably not going to be up against the Bucks, and it's not going to be up against the Broncos. So 3 straight weeks of rough matchups. Now, Derek Carr is still solid. He still has weapons, so he's going to be fine, but he's definitely not an ideal start. Now we get on into the range where if you have to play them, good luck, Charlie, like that TV show on Disney Channel. We got Andy Dalton, the Red Rifle, going up against the Bears. Toughest matchup for him yet this season. He gets the easy ones. He beats the Raiders, right? Looks good against the Bengals, quarterback 8, quarterback 12. Now he's got to face a real defense, and this is where he comes back down to earth. But there are also worse options than him. Next up, we got Cool Joe Flacco. Now, technically, Anthony Richardson could play. But, and this is a big but, shout out to Jen Selter. If Joe Flacco plays, I'm fine ranking him here. He was the quarterback 15 last week. He doesn't have the same arm he used to, but he makes smart decisions, right? He makes non-stupid plays. He doesn't just throw the ball to fucking triple coverage because fuck it, I'm cool Joe Flacco. He doesn't do stupid things. Now, his mobility isn't really there, okay? But he's going to be fine, especially up against the Jaguars defense that isn't very good because the Colts have enough weapons to keep him afloat. Again, though, he's Joe Flacco. He's old as fuck, so that's also a downside to where we're not ranking him higher. Next up, we got Rod Rodgers, Mr. Discount, double check in London. Gonna get some tea out there, maybe some ayahuasca tea. I have no idea how ayahuasca actually works. I need to watch that Joe Rogan episode, I guess. Quarterback 20, 10, 12, and 26. Last week up against the Broncos, I expected better. Snooze fest in the rain. Now going up against the Vikings, one of the best, if not the best defenses in the NFL. Got to start Rodgers. You gotta hold your breath. Now we move on to the tight end position, and we're gonna have to do a slide like the beginning of Sunday Night Football, and we gotta slide even more so that I can be perfectly in the screen here. We begin with the S tier at tight end, and in my opinion, the S tier at tight end stands for not whatever normally the S tier stands for, which is, I honestly don't even know what it stands for. It's like fucking super sexy, beast mode, fucking going bananas, right? This is just the S for you actually feel comfortable starting them. That's what it really stands for, because after the S tier, and then I guess the A tier's fine as well, but once you get deep down in the tight end rankings, even with some of these guys that are listed in the S tier that are good starts, like even these guys are shit in the bed every once in a while. So the tight ends this year have been brutal. So at number 1, we got Mr. Swift, Travis Kelce. He sucked for the first 3 games, but without Rashee Rice, he had 9 targets last week, 7 receptions, 89 yards. I don't think we're going to get vintage Kelce at this point in the season, but we're going to get a solid target share being thrown to you from Patrick Mahomes up against the Saints that aren't the best defense against the tight end. Feels like a no-brainer. Rank him at number 1. At number 2, we got Trey McBride dealing with a concussion, but he cleared concussion protocol and is good to go on Sunday. Trey McBride, another one of those guys that just feels super safe, like wrapping a fucking Trojan around your fantasy football team. When healthy, quarterback 11-4 in week 1, week 2. He played in week 3 and was the tight end 24, but he did get hurt in that game. Going up against the Niners, I definitely don't love the matchup, but again, when he's going to get 6+ targets every single week, which is hard to come by at the tight end position, he feels good inside of this range. Pause. At number 3, we got George Kittle meet Timbers, listed with a rib injury, could play, could not play. I'm going to go ahead and play doctor here, like my name was Johnny Sins, and say he's going to play. Now, George Kittle in the past was a guy that I was always dubbed as boom or bust, meaning he would either go crazy or he's laying a million blocks out there and he scores you like 2 fantasy points, sometimes 0. This season, he's had 8, 21, and 15 fantasy points. The 49ers offense is too legit to quit. George Kittle has great touchdown upside. The Arizona Cardinals defense reeks to high heaven. Great spot for Kittle. Next up, we got Jake Ferguson, another super safe bet here. Tight end 3 and 7 over the last 2 games with 7 or more targets. Brandon Cooks is dealing with a knee infection. They don't really have a lot of weapons outside of CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson. The run game is dog shit. Jake Ferguson is a solid red zone weapon. Targets are always going to be there for him. Matchup against the Steelers isn't the best, but I still like Jake Ferguson. Brock Bowers is up next. Tale of 2 seasons for Brock Bowers, right? We've talked about how tale of 2 halves for Jordan Love in that game up against the Vikings. For Brock Bowers, the first 2 games of the season, the first half, tight end 3, then tight end 17, tight end 24. No Devontae Adams for the rest of the season. His ass is getting traded, in my opinion. Matchup against the Broncos isn't the best, but he should be getting 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 targets in this game, so I like him. At number 6, to close out the S tier, we got Dalton Kincaid, another one of those guys that just sees enough volume to be valuable. No Khalil Shakir in this game, which should boost him, get him maybe an extra target or 2, when he's already a 5+ targeted guy game weekly. Solid red zone weapon as well. Great spot up against the Texans due to the high scoring upside. Next up, we move on into the A tier here, where we have 3 guys, beginning with Evan Ingram, EZE of the Jacksonville Jaguars, going up against the Indianapolis Colts. Another guy that is questionable, hamstring injury, questionable to play, from what I've read on Twitter from the genius Twitter doctors, and that's more of a joke. I mean, the Twitter doctors, they know more about fucking medicine and diagnosing these guys than I do. I have friends that are doctors. I could text them and get very similar information. Evan Ingram, and that's not me shitting on every one of them, though, because there are some nice guys that are doctors on Twitter that I've talked to before. Respect to them. Like Dr. Edwin Porras. That's a very nice guy. So Evan Ingram going up against the Colts. Great spot for him. If he plays, if he doesn't play, you don't play him. It's really that simple. Evan Ingram's another one of those guys that, hey, if he was fully healthy, he'd be ranked in the S tier because he is coming back from the injury, which could dip off his production. Next up, we got Pat Freiermuth, who put his cock in the mouth of the Indianapolis Colts. What a saying that was. I'm here all week. Tight end 2 last week. Finally scored a touchdown. Popped his cherry on the season. 5 receptions, 7 targets, and a tug, 57 yards. If the team continues to throw the ball more, Freiermuth will have more upside. He's still probably going to be like a 8 to 10 point guy weekly, but if he scores, the upside is there. Next up, we got David Njoku, another guy that, bitch, you guessed it, is questionable to play on Sunday with the ankle. I saw a video of him, which was hilarious. It was just him doing some interview in the locker room, not wearing a short. He's not wearing a shirt, and he's wearing like his pants, but they're rolled up a little bit. And there was a guy watching him do the interview, and he was fucking A1 meat gazing him. It was actually one of the funniest things I've ever seen. He was staring at David Njoku's package. Going up against the Commanders, me likey this matchup. Njoku was the tight end 9 in week 1. Now, Deshaun Watson, the fact that he just sucks, puts him down in the rankings, but Njoku kind of belongs in this range again because he does feel a lot safer than a lot of the tight ends. Now we move on into the third tier here, and this is where we begin to have to pray. Pray to the football gods above that things go their way. The first 2 tiers, I feel good about those guys. This is where there's a lot more question marks. Now, shout out to Kyle Pitts, who was my tight end 10. He already played, so he's not in the rankings. He looked good. Now, are we going to go crazy over one game? No, but hey, at least, the people who I told not to cut Kyle Pitts, not to fucking panic yet, hopefully you still got him on your team because he looked good. Speaking of looking good, Tucker Kraft looked like fucking Margot Robbie in Wolf of Wall Street. Just beautiful last week up against the Vikings. The name I was trying to come up with is that chick with the big knockers that is dating Verlander, I believe, in the MLB, that is a swimsuit model for Sports Illustrated. If you know, you know. I don't remember her name. That's the name I was trying to pull. I don't know, Margot Robbie came off the top of my head as well. Another blonde lady. Shout out to the blondes. Shout out to my wife as well. Shout out to her. She's the best. And number 1 in all of the US of A. Okay, so Tucker Kraft going up against the Rams in LA last week. Tight end 1. Round of applause. Is he going to repeat it? Fuck no, baby. Why? Because every single time we buy into, oh my God, did you see how good Hunter Henry looked? I think he's going to be the tight end 1 again. Oh, do you see how good Tyler Conklin looked? He's probably going to be a top 5 tight end again, right, Nick? You see how good Rashid Shaheed looked? He's going to be a top 15 wide receiver again. Right? It's like we buy into these hype trains all the time and they fail. Now, Shaheed, he's kind of the opposite, but at the tight end position, it's like a fucking pyramid scheme. People are falling for it. They're like, oh, I'll sell these knives. And then you're basically got a knife shoved directly up your ass because you're fucked because you just bought $5,000 worth of knives that you'll never be able to sell, right? That's never happened to me. Hope it hasn't happened to you. But going up against the Rams is a great spot for him. He looked great last week. A lot of injuries, which will boost him up. But again, he's the tight end 1 on the team, but I'm hesitant to truly start doing tricks on him, Tony Hawk style, until he does it for multiple weeks in a row. Cole Kmet, another example. Tight end 2 in week 3. Oh my God, we got to start him in week 4 against the Rams. And then he's the fucking tight end 20. Congrats. I like the spot against the Panthers. I don't really trust Caleb Williams, but I like the spot. Keenan Allen's there. Adunze's there. Lots of cooks in the kitchen, but Kmet could at least score. Next up, we got Isaiah Likely, and it's been Isaiah unlikely that he catches any fucking passes recently because this poor bastard went from 12 targets in week 1 to 3, 1, and 2. Bengals matchup is great. Shout out Tony the Tiger, but the targets are far and few in between. Next up, we got Zach Ertz, my ball Zach Ertz, going up against the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. Can't believe this man is still playing, or at home in Washington. I apologize. He's good for 8 points. That's what he's good for. Some of these tight ends are good for like 2 points, so at least you're getting the 8 points. That's about all I got to say about Zach Ertz. Eventually, one of these days, though, he's going to fucking crash through the wall like the Kool-Aid man and score a touchdown. Next up, we got Tyler Conklin and Kobe Parkinson in the C tier. Tyler Conklin has that big game up against the Patriots, follows that up with a bad game against the Broncos, but everyone played bad against the Broncos. The Minnesota Vikings just allowed Tucker Kraft to go 12 inches deep into their butthole. The question is, that's probably just because they kind of let off the gas. They were kind of chillaxing on defense. Brian Flores said, hey, slow your roll, let's play a little bit softer. And that happened. So let's be honest with you. You're just starting Tyler Conklin because he's attached to Aaron Rodgers, and sometimes Aaron Rodgers loves a nice tight end. But who doesn't? Kobe Parkinson. So many injuries to the Rams players. The volume is going to be there, but Matthew Stafford's getting lit up like a Christmas tree. The matchup's good, but the targets haven't been the most accurate from Stafford. Now we move on into the final tier, the just throwing shit against the wall, hoping something hits here. Hunter Henry, the tight end from week 2, is the tight end 2. After that, he gets 12 targets, then he gets 3 targets, then 3 targets. Probably good for 3 or 4 targets until Jacoby Brissett gets put on the bench and they put in Draco May. Then you can start playing Hunter Henry. Next up, we got Dalton Schultz, another guy you just need a touchdown out of. Dalton Schultz now has Tank Dell back on the team, though, healthy. They've got Stephon Diggs in a revenge game. They've got Nico Collins. So there's just too many cooks in the kitchen to be excited about. Then we got Eric All, who's in a scenario where he's kind of sharing targets with Mike Likia-Magasicki All. But Eric All has went 4 for 4 like he was at Wendy's for 4 straight games. He's good for like 6 points. If you want that, maybe one of these weeks he'll score. Then we got Mark Andrews. We can't fully just kick him all the way down the rankings because the Ravens have been just super run heavy recently. But even when they weren't super run heavy, they weren't really giving the rock too much to Mark Andrews. I told you guys to have one more week of grace period before you cut him, so hopefully at least some of you held him. If he shits the bed again, though, he's done. Bye-bye. Final guy here, Mike Likia-Magasicki, with the resurgence of Eric All. It's basically put a nail in the coffin of Gesicki, but Gesicki's still good enough to score a touchdown. So thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you did end up enjoying, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below like it owes you some money. Leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. Also, make sure you guys check out Underdog, promo code Notorious to claim your free pick, which is Dak Prescott higher than half a total yard, plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Check out one of the videos on your screen if you haven't seen them already. Again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button like it owes you some money. I love you guys all so much. I'll see you guys Sunday morning live stream around 12 in the afternoon, 1 hour before kickoff. Love you guys. Stay safe as always. Good boy.